Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. We are continuing on with the Impact Series, and I've got a massive episode with a massive influencer. This guy's got a big following. His name is Philly 500, and I'm telling you, man, we are talking Miles Sanders. Massive episode. Let's get to it. I want to introduce you to Philly 500. Now, if you're an Eagles fan, you definitely know who he is. Again, like I said, massive influence on YouTube. Philly, welcome to the show.
What's up, Counselor? Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate being here. I'm really looking forward to this episode with you.
I'm excited, man. Today we're talking about Miles Sanders and his fantasy football value going into 2020 fantasy football. Before I get into that, can you just briefly, elevator pitch it, 2 minutes or less, 1 minute or less, who you are, for the people that don't know you, and what your mission is as an Eagles ambassador. What are you out there doing for the fans?
Well, I'm Philly 500. I'm a huge Eagles fan, huge Philly fan in general, and I'm pretty much as authentic as they come. I'm the real deal, and I'm here to promote my Philadelphia Eagles, my Philly fans, who are the best fans in the world, and that's who I represent very proudly.
Hey, and you do a great job doing it, guys. If you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, there's a link here below. I've linked it. Like I said, big influencer when it comes to Philly. And that's my mission, is to give you guys that best inside information from the guys that are the best and the top of their field, and that's what he's here to do. So let's get right to it here. Miles Sanders, I'm going to give you guys some stats here. I love this guy, man. I mean, I just love him. I mean, he came on near the end of the season, but only 179 attempts. I guess he got going a little bit later on. 818 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, only 3 touchdowns. I'd like to see that go up. Jordan Howard was there, no longer there. Jordan Howard took 119 attempts, 6 touchdowns away from Miles Sanders. But I think if it stays the way that it is, they do not draft someone else. That's what we're going to ask you about. If it stays the way that it is, this guy could easily be a top 10 running back under the radar. I think people are going to be sleeping on him for fantasy football. Can you tell us, what do you see with Miles Sanders? Is he going to be the workhorse back? Is he the future franchise running back of the Eagles? Can you give us your thoughts on this talent, please?
I love Miles Sanders. Now, I was begging the Eagles to draft him during the whole draft. I was streaming it live. If you can actually go back and see the reaction. But I wanted Miles Sanders, and I said, Miles Sanders will be the starting running back before the end of the season. Before the end of the season, he's going to replace Jordan Howard. I didn't know that Howard was going to have some stinger the last 7 weeks, but I knew that Miles Sanders was that good. And I think he is a franchise back. I think he needs to get a little bit bigger, a little stronger. Right. But I think he's on that path to be the long-term featured franchise back for the Philadelphia Eagles. No question. Now, I do expect them to probably bring in another back, maybe a big back at some point, maybe undrafted free agent. I really don't think they're going to draft a back. I think they'll bring an undrafted free agent, maybe they'll sign a free agent. But I expect them to bring somebody, but I don't think it's going to take that much away from Miles Sanders.
Really? So he's going to be the guy. And again,
I think so.
That's kind of showing here, right? Because again, he had more attempts than Howard last year with Howard there, and Howard was supposed to be the feature back. I wasn't sold on Howard. But the good news is, I think even if they get a running back, it won't be one of those top 5 backs. Now, this is good for fantasy, not so much for you guys, because I think you guys really, obviously, but you need to focus on getting at wide receiver. So is that what you think the Eagles are going to do? They're going to strike early on a wide receiver, right?
Yeah, I think, and I did a video on this yesterday, because I think that if you looked at what the Eagles did, they have gone only defense in free agency. They have yet to make one signing on the offensive side of the ball. They haven't done anything. And that's a telltale sign that this is a team that's going to draft offense heavy. And they're probably going to go wide receiver. My guess, the first 2 of the first 3 picks are going to be wide receiver. Then I expect some interior offensive linemen, maybe a backup center. But yeah, the Eagles have to upgrade the wide receiver position. And I think if they can do that, I think it's going to go a long way to help Miles Sanders.
Right. Now, I like him. Like I said, he finished 15th in PPR, guys, if you want to know. For guys that are just Philly fans that don't play fantasy and just tuned in to see Philly 500, PPR is 1 point per reception. Again, finished 15th, Miles Sanders did, amongst running backs last season. So, if it stays the way that it does, and if they do bring in another running back and he just isn't on the same level as Miles Sanders, I'm all over Miles Sanders this season. I'm not really into drafting Eagles running backs for fantasy football. I'm excited to see what they do this season. Again, what wide receiver they're going to acquire. Is there any particular wide receivers? By the way, his name is Joel. Is that okay with your real name?
That's fine. That's
Joel
fine.
Philly 500. I'm not sure what he's more known
They
as.
could call me King Dingbat because I am the king of all dingbats. There's no question.
All right, the king. What wide receiver do you think they're really trying to eye? Do you know?
Well, if you go by most of the mock drafts, it's Justin Jefferson. That's what you're seeing a lot. But I truly believe, because the Eagles have put themselves in a position where every team behind them know they need a receiver, and every team in front of them are going to want a lot because they know they need a receiver. I still think the Eagles are going to make a big move in the draft to go up, and I believe they're going to end up with one of the top 3 wide receivers. Most likely, I'm going to say Henry Ruggs. That's my target.
That would be good. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit off tangent here. Miles Sanders, guys, as of right now, the filming of this, which is early April, Miles Sanders, I love him for fantasy football. Check out my rankings at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. Now, I want to go off on a tangent here because I'm kind of known as the Carson Wentz hater. And again, I don't want to – this is terrible. I know. We got to debate this. It's scary territory here.
Okay, let's debate it.
So I'll tell you the story. So, again, it's not like I physically hate the guy. And people think, okay, I hate a guy because, like I say that about Odell. I don't like Odell for fantasy because Odell – this is a story. Odell, 3 years in a row, was drafted in the first round, okay? And people wasted a first-round pick for fantasy, and he busted 3 years ago. I don't care how he busted, whether it be injury, whether it be quarterback situation. I don't really care. He still busted. With Carson Wentz, now, you know, he's not really a fantasy stud right now, but the problem with Carson Wentz I have is that I think he got paid prematurely. He hasn't even finished a season, right? Foles came in, won the thing, and then they paid him. I understand the talent is there. I get it. I see the upside. But I got to ask you honestly, is he worth all that money? And do you think, honestly, be honest, try to take the bias out, was he paid a little prematurely based on what he did? I just need your opinion on that.
He wasn't paid prematurely. You have to invest in a quarterback, in your franchise quarterback. The idea is pay him as quickly as possible. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. Perfect example.
They're sleeping right now.
They don't have Dak Prescott signed long-term. They had to franchise him. You have a guy like Tannehill who's making $29.5 million a year.
That's
the longer you wait, the more you're going to pay. Carson Wentz's contract a year later looks like a deal because you don't have to pay him what you're going to have to pay these other quarterbacks. And look who the guys that are getting ready to come and get paid at some point. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. You're going to pay a lot more. So yeah, at the time, the guy's coming off an injury. Okay, you say, I'll let him play a whole year and wait. But the problem is that when he did play 16 games, no matter what people want to say about what happened in a wild card game, the cheap shot. Right. But no matter what, he played 16 games. And oh, by the way, he was elite the last 5 weeks with practice squad players. Practice squad players. So I think that sometimes you just have to pay because look at the Dak Prescott situation. Perfect reason why you wait. You don't wait. You pay him. You get it out of the way because all these other contracts are coming in. Every time a new quarterback gets paid, Dak Prescott's price is going up, and it's going to kill the Cowboys. Pay Dak Prescott $50 million. Pay him. Pay him. He's a stinking Cowboy. I hate the Cowboys.
And he's good. I mean, Prescott did good. He was, I think, in second in passing yards last season. He can throw the ball. And now the thing is, I got 2 questions about Carson Wentz real quick. I know we're going off on a tangent. We should bring you back for Carson Wentz specifically. But I got 2 questions. Do you genuinely feel that he is elite? Like, or do you feel he's part of the Sam Darnold club, or do you think you got your Russell Wilsons, you got your Tom Brady's? Is Wentz here, or do you think he's with the Darnolds, or like where do you find him? Is he top tier? Do you think he's up there with those top dogs?
I think you got to say maybe, elite, best of the best right now. You have your Patrick Mahomes, you have your Russell Wilsons. If you want to, I like to see Lamar Jackson do it one more year, but I think second tier, he's right in there. I mean, all I have to say is give the guy weapons. I mean, look at what he works with compared to everybody else. And what I saw towards the end of the year, when he had nobody, he had Greg Ward Jr., he had Robert Davis, Dante Burnett. He had really nothing except for tight ends, which are good, but everybody in the world knew to put their best defensive back on Zach Ertz.
Right.
He carried them. And to me, he showed me a lot. And I just think it was a shame that he got hurt in that wild card game, because I really think they beat Seattle. And I do think he's elite. I do. I just think he needs some weapons.
Which leads to my second question, and you probably know his injuries better than me. Now, again, based on what we've seen, would you consider him injury prone, or were these just kind of fluky injuries? Because people come at me with David Johnson. You say this guy's injury prone. What about David Johnson? Now, David Johnson had a hit on his wrist. I guess he had caught the ball, turned, got smoked, fluke injury. Were Carson Wentz more kind of fluky type things, or do you think he's more prone to injury?
Well, I think it's fair for people to be worried about it, right? Especially the way the season ended with, I thought that was just a flat out cheap shot. Okay, the guy got hit in the back of the head. If the Eagles would have won, he was cleared to play. He would have played the next week. But, when you have a torn ACL, right, which is what he had in 2017, you come back. Right. A lot of times it takes you that full year. And a lot of times you suffer many other injuries. Now, the guy was playing with a cracked back the following year. After coming back from that ACL, I think having injuries coming off of ACL is kind of consistent with some people that get, come back from these ACL injuries. But I understand where people are coming from, especially the way that the playoff game ended. I think it's a fair criticism to wonder going forward, but I don't consider him injury prone at this point. If he gets hurt again, like if he hurts his knee again or something like that, or he loses a whole year, or half a year, then I think I would probably say, yeah.
Right. I definitely think the talent is there, and I do give him credit, because again, he did perform and he didn't really have any receivers. That is a huge statement. So you got to give him credit where credit's due. But I need to see him, win a playoff game. I need to see him do something in the playoffs for me to feel, I feel good about that's not my money, but I feel good about the 128 million. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder now. I think he's got to say, I got something to prove. I got to do this. And I think everybody's waiting for him to really shine. And again, plug and play the right receivers. We got something special there potentially, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to get it done when the time comes, and soon. Just get him a little help, and he's going to be fine. Now, Miles Sanders is going to be a big help next year, because I think, when you talk about Miles in fantasy points too, and he catches a lot of balls out of the backfield. I think he could catch
last year.
Yeah, I think he could catch 70 balls next year. So he's going to be a nice guy for Carson to check down to. That could do some damage. But when you look at Carson's statistics, what did he have? 27 touchdowns, something like that, 7 interceptions. Dude, I could count like 5 or 6 touchdowns that were dropped at the game-winning touchdown passes.
Good point.
That you have to take. Statistics you take away from him that had nothing to do with him, were not his fault. Nelson Stinkelar, that's what I call him, dropping game winners. So I like Carson.
I have a saying everyone knows it: years to wow me, and I'm not wowed. And I think Aguilar is one of those guys. I'm not wowed yet.
Yeah. No, he stinks. I was never a Nelson Aguilar guy, so I was very happy to see the Raiders take him.
My concern here with Sanders, maybe you can enforce it and why this happened. Only 3 rushing touchdowns. Is that going to be a concern moving forward in 2020? Was it you guys were behind games, or was it Jordan Howard that stole the 6? Why only 3 rushing touchdowns? I want to see more. Or was it that they were just passing the tight ends for the touchdowns? What happened?
Well, I think the first 5 or 6 weeks, I don't think he even scored a touchdown. He came close a couple times, but he didn't score. I think his first touchdown, and I'm not totally sure, but I think it was a receiving touchdown against Minnesota. So it kind of took him a while to get going, and then he got some carries, later on in the year. But the Eagles throw a lot too, so they throw a lot in those situations. But I expect him. I think he's, it's fair to say he could get between 7 to 10 rushing touchdowns this year, and maybe another 6 receiving. Something like
with
that.
With Howard out, yes. Now another concern, again, similar, because you said they're throwing more. He only had 1 game over 20 attempts, and then he had another game at 19 attempts. In the game, he had 19 attempts. I think it was later in the season. He had both a rushing and receiving touchdown. 100, and only 1 game over 100 yards. He had the 122-yard game. I hope we see more of that, because we see the ceiling there. Do you think they're going to give him the ball more?
I don't think he's going to get like 20 carries a game. I don't think you'll see him getting 20 carries, but I think you'll see him getting, between 12, 15 rushes, but he's going to get another 7, 8, 9 balls thrown his way. So I
Why are
think
they
he ends
not
up with
smashing the ball more? Why aren't they smashing the rock more?
that's not the Eagles. I mean, you know, when they do it, it works. I mean, in 2017 they were very successful, but Doug Peterson is prone to get away from that at times. You know, I think you're going to have the Eagles also like to rotate guys, and you got Boston Scott. Now he's going to be that Darren Sproles role. I expect him to take some carries away, but where I think Miles will make up for that is in receptions. I think they're going to use him in the passing game a lot.
They should. I mean, 50 receptions, 509 receiving yards last year, and 3 receiving touchdowns. So, yeah, I'm excited, guys. That's really good insight. And, again, if you are thinking Miles Sanders, definitely not an RB1 right now because, again, you might be limited in regards to attempts. Only one game over 20 attempts, which, again, is a bit of a concern to me. I'm only going to assume they believe in him, and they're going to work him more this year, again, shipping Jordan Howard off. Man, I'm excited. Thank you for giving us that inside information, guys. Make sure you guys follow him. Is there any other things you want to say about Miles?
No, but I do want to thank you for inviting me on. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing it again in the future.
Thanks. Make sure you guys shoot him a follow. The social links are there below for you guys. Again, man, massive channel. Go check it out if you haven't checked out Philly 500. And that's the advantage, guys, of with the Fantasy Ball Counselor podcast. I'm talking to these inside guys. And go to their channel, check it out. You're going to be able to get these golden nuggets for every team. It's really going to give you that competitive edge. One more question before I go. Like last year, David Johnson, I keep going to him as an example. He came out and said, hey, man, like, I'm going to play this one game. I'm ready. I'm good. He had a back injury a little bit. Came out for one snap, went back on the bench, only gave our fantasy guys 1 point. We all started him. A lot of people started him, people that had him. Do you have any insight, would you say, or, you know, before a game, let's say Miles Sanders, God forbid, is, you know, his leg sore or something like that, and he says he's going to play. Would you have any insight information? Do you have the resources if we get you on to give us some insight before games?
I mean, I hear things, but I mean, nobody's calling me up directly from the team saying this is what's going on. But I hear things from local media enough to have a kind of an idea what to expect.
Nobody really knows. Sometimes the coaches even keep it a secret. So, I don't think anybody really knows. I think sometimes the player even keeps it a secret. I think, I'm ready. And then he goes, no, put me out. Or the coach tells the media, even everybody, the beat writers, the coach tells them something, and then it's something totally different come game time. So, I just wanted to see if there's any, at least by talking to you, we're going to have more of an edge than us just listening to the media. So, guys, make sure you guys follow Philly 500. Thank you again for being on. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's go Philly.
That's right.
All right, man. Thanks for being on. We'll talk soon.
You.
Make sure you guys subscribe and leave a thumbs up. And leave a comment. Are you drafting Miles Sanders for 2020? We're out.